Welcome back to Digging Deeper. Today we're talking about branding and why it could be the missing ingredient in revolutionizing your entire recruiting process. I think the thing we want to talk about here is how to phrase this. Essentially, how important branding is to bringing in drivers and how much fleets are ignoring it. Fair enough?
Fair. Very good statement. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Beautifully done.
And you guys better be good because the last guest we had on was dynamite. So that's the principle that tells you what you should use. Marketing automation, chatbots, whatever it is. Does this make it easier on my audience? Does this help them do what they were already trying to do? Wow. I mean, that's it. Wow. Anywho's, let's start off by defining what we mean by branding. And welcome back, guys. Great to have you back. Let's
be here.
Start off. Let's define what you consider branding. You first.
I'll go first. I'll go with the most basic kind of definition in what I've seen, where clients will take some measure of budget and they're going to apply it to the marketplace, and it's not necessarily going to have a return on it. And a lot of the messaging is just logo heavy, logo, thinking that if I can get my logo in front of enough people, in front of the right people, eventually they're going to search me out. So that's kind of the first definition that I've seen fleets, with a branding campaign.
All right, your turn.
I'll go more big picture.
Okay.
Less in the weeds. More big picture. I see branding as trying to influence perception of your brand or company. So think of any brand or company out there.
Okay.
You have a perception of it. Could be a negative perception, could be completely neutral. I don't care. Could be very positive.
Yeah.
Branding is how you create that perception and move across that spectrum.
So creating the feeling in somebody or what they associate with that particular brand, as opposed to thinking logo.
Spot on.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So in the last episode, which you guys may have not seen, I defined, my guest defined branding not branding, but marketing as communication aimed at modifying economic behavior. So if we look at it, branding is specifically the internal perception of your audience. So it's modifying the internal perception of your audience, just as you said. And so if we think of that from a real pragmatic standpoint, we would say the only metric we're really looking at is impressions or views or something, maybe even clicks, but we're not necessarily after a transactional reaction from our audience at this point.
Yeah.
And we have to be okay with that because we have to have a little bit of faith.
Yep.
That's
true.
going to make a big difference.
I agree.
We've all kind of said that, it has something to do with our brand and who we are as a company, and then impressing that perception, that idea onto our audience.
Yes.
So we're all on the same page.
I agree.
On
Yes.
what branding is.
Yes.
Okay. Now, how much effort do we think our clients, and we talked about this earlier, you said maybe this is some on us, and just because we have such a myopic focus on, are we getting drivers in the door? How much time and effort and money in general do you think our clients spend on this idea of branding? Just changing the perception of their audience.
You go first.
Not enough.
Or reinforcing the perception. Maybe they have a good one, but.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough. But I don't necessarily think it's, if I'm thinking about our clients, I don't think it's really their fault per se, because when you're charged with, hey, we have open trucks on our lot. Every truck that's open means I'm losing opportunity for revenue. And my job as a recruiting manager is to get more drivers in so that they can drive a truck, right? So when you're thinking about branding as a whole, it's not necessarily tied to your point, a lead. You're not going to spend money in branding and expect to get leads in. And if you don't expect to get leads in, well, heck, I'm not going to put someone in my truck.
That's a pretty logical.
So why would I do it?
Understanding that probably everybody watching this is going to immediately think.
Like,
so why would you do it, Zach?
Of course.
So would you say, the question on the table here, and that's all good, and I'm not trying to say, let's not get into that yet, but let's not get into that yet. The question on the table here is how much time and effort and thought do you think our clients are currently putting into this?
And I think to Zach's point, I would venture to say very little and not enough. And again, kind of the point we were talking about earlier, part of that's our fault, where dollars to leads to hires and sort of that linear formula. A lot of fleets, the pressure is to fill trucks. It's not necessarily to tell a story. It's not necessarily to build pride within their fleet. The recruiting department has one job: convert a lead into a hire, and that's it. And so stepping back from that and saying, I've got to sort of make myself be thought of by drivers one day in the future when I've got holes in my fleet with sitting trucks today. It's not really thought by very many fleets as an important element to marketing right now. And it's hard for me to blame them too much.
Branding's a long-term play.
That's right.
It's a long-term solution. You have to think, what do I want my brand to be in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road? But when I'm tasked with how do I fill my trucks today, it's really hard to think down the road.
So essentially, we probably could say that many of our clients, because I talk to our clients from time to time, and they tend to be marketing minds. They like talking marketing, and people who love marketing tend to love branding, but they're just not really afforded the opportunity to make the long play. It's the nature of our market makes you focus on the short term.
The urgency outweighs, kind of in business, I believe it may have been President Eisenhower had a urgency versus importance scale. The urgency is I've got to get trucks filled right now, and that's more important than hoping 3 months, 5 months from now some drivers will want to come to work for me. I got to get this done today.
But I think what we want to talk about today is, so we've talked about what branding is, and we don't think that our clients are spending enough time on it, but we're here to say essentially that if you can carve out the time and money and effort on it, it will pay dividends. So let's go ahead and jump to the nitty-gritty of why does branding pay dividends?
I think it pays dividends in that it can work internally and externally. If I build my brand, I can sort of build that community, that pride amongst my fleet today. That's going to help retention. So a branding campaign of telling the stories of drivers that we're not delivering food and commodities, we're actually feeding families. What if we told our drivers, this is how many meals we delivered this week? They'd take a lot of pride in that, so that when they step out of the truck to get fuel, they know what they're doing is actually having an impact. So that's sort of an internal element that branding can play. But then externally, if I can tell some stories, I can sort of be that brand or that company or that resource for someone to think about later. And that's really what you're hoping that your branding can do for you.
I'm going to hold your feet to the fire on this one because I'm going to play the devil's advocate.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate on this one. I don't think you could sell the idea of spending money and time on branding with that message. I think it's going to have to be a little, I know there's some element of faith, but I think you need something a little more concrete.
Right. So, I was thinking that was sort of the internal way to use it.
But even then, I think what's the, where am I making money as a CEO? Why am I making money from that?
It's going to show up in every metric that you track.
Okay.
It's just hard to attribute it. Well.
Retention and then leads on down the line. So
retention.
Back to you.
Retention. Let me take you through the entire process. From
Here we go.
The time somebody clicks an ad. So you target someone. When you do branding well, you've created some sort of advocacy for your company, and they know who you are. They already like you. I like to give the example of when I go down a cereal aisle. There's a lot of different options for cereal.
A lot of different fleets you could work for.
So I'm a Cinnamon Toast Crunch guy. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's God's gift to America.
Not Golden Grams?
Not Golden Grams. So the idea is I can go down a cereal aisle and shop, but I have a lot of choices. The goal for branding is let me make it to where a driver goes down the cereal aisle and they're not shopping. They already know what they want.
I really like this metaphor.
They're coming to me.
It's a really good answer.
And I don't even eat cereal, but I like this metaphor. This is really good.
Yeah.
I'm not even being facetious.
It's hard for me to gauge sometimes.
You're not being facetious that you don't eat cereal?
No, I don't eat cereal, and this is it. The idea there, and I probably shouldn't have interrupted your flow because it was so good. If drivers are going down the aisle, you don't want them shopping, and that's so this is what branding is about. Is I'm going down the aisle, but I'm not shopping. I'm looking for the thing that I want.
So now put it in our clients' world.
Yes.
What if they go to Google, or what if they go to Indeed, and instead of putting truck driving jobs near me and get a menu of items that they can look at and
An
compare,
aisle to shop down.
fill
per
out their
se.
form 9 different times and get contacted by 9 different recruiters at worst, right? So like, instead of that, what if in a world the driver goes to Google and they're not searching for a job and they're searching for your job? Your competition goes down to 0. You're not competing anymore.
So I think a really nice way to say this, and I'm going to say it that way, is hopefully you guys will give me the ping pong it back to me the way I'm thinking. What's the cheapest lead?
Are you from a marketing perspective or like a driver referral in terms of being the cheapest hire?
Total cheapest hire.
Oh, that's going to be the person who just walks in off the street and calls you.
Okay.
You know,
How on earth do you get that?
you have to get drivers to think of you.
What's the second cheapest hire?
Probably referrals.
How do you get that?
Happy drivers that
What's the third cheapest hire?
probably the ones you're having to go to the market for at that point.
I would say organic search.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Three-
Wow,
three
yeah.
cheapest hires.
Absolutely, yeah.
Someone just calls you out of the blue or walks in. Your driver refers you. An organic search.
Someone
3 cheapest hires
yes.
that cannot come from your lead gen efforts.
at all.
Boom. So the goal is,
Dang.
the idea is
It's a
there's
really
only so
good
many
summary.
of those. There's only so many of those, right? So there's
Right.
a ceiling. So
Yeah.
maybe I can only get a certain amount of those. I think our audience would absolutely understand that. Yeah, that's great, David. I can get those, but there's only so many.
There's finite referrals. There's finite people that'll wandering off the street. There's a finite number of people that'll come to an organic listing. But
is
I know
it
where
finite?
you're going.
Is it?
No.
If this is the market now, is there something I can do to increase that? If I'm getting 20 from all those channels, and it's my cheapest cost per hire, and I'm getting 20, I think that's the market right there. Is there a way to make that number 30, 40, 50, 100, whatever?
By the way, I'll add and I was supposed to be playing devil's advocate, and I'm not at all, but I'll add to that. We did some research internally to look at the correlation between referral rate and referral bonus. So the idea being, you would think if I have a bigger referral bonus, I'm going to have a higher referral rate. Now, our research was not near complete to say this 100%, but it looks like there is 0 correlation. Sorry, I bumped the mic. There's 0 correlation between how much money you're giving for a referral bonus and your referral rate. There was no, sorry, Mackenzie, I said this wrong. There was no statistical relationship between the two.
Wow.
So that means that referral rate really is just an indicator of how drivers feel about your fleet.
My perception of the company. And am I a true advocate of it?
Do I have a sense of pride?
Yep.
Is this a brand I want to get behind? Do I want to be an advocate for the company that I work for?
So if we're looking at, and like we said, there's no real, there is an element of faith. Like attribution is extremely difficult, and especially attributing what you're doing that doesn't necessarily result in a direct lead. But the only way to increase the 3 cheapest lead sources that we have, essentially as a company, is through this branding, storytelling. I'm only looking to influence the perception of my audience.
That's
type
right.
of marketing.
I think you'll see it in other metrics too. And I think we went on a rabbit trail, and it was a beautiful trail to go down. But going back to the metric side, if you think of the driver journey on how they get to your company anyway, these are the metrics that you would start to kind of track over time. And maybe that's a challenge for our clients, right? Is hey, give it a shot. Like, test us on it.
Right.
I dare you. We have so much data to say
It works.
just about 100% you're going to knock a home run. So here's the challenge. Like, give it a shot, give it a good shot and try it out. And then here's some things that you're going to be tracking over the next few months, right? As you're seeing that, it's going to take, when you're thinking about a driver clicking an ad, it's going to take fewer drivers to click an ad to turn into a lead. So
like your conversion rate from landing page, from ad to landing
Correct.
page to lead.
conversion rates get better. Because conversion rates get better, you can't necessarily tell Facebook or Google how much a click costs. So that's the market, but conversion rates would get
Yep.
better. Therefore, cost per lead would get better.
Yep.
And because the driver is already an advocate for you all beforehand,
Yeah.
your recruiter is going to be able to close them more effectively.
They're
So
not
your
shopping.
hire ratios,
Right.
they're not shopping. recruiters are just kind of taking orders, right?
And I think
Now that gets better. So every metric in the journey will get better over time. Challenge you. I dare you. Try it.
And I'll
work.
give you 2 more sources.
Yeah.
Just go to your Google Analytics.
Yeah.
I want to see, does my organic traffic pick up? Because you can go into Google Analytics and it will tell you, the organic traffic, is that increasing? And then you can set some metrics from there and follow that traffic. You can put a little action item on your inquiry, when you have a driver to fill out an application or inquiry form or whatever that action is from your corporate site. So of my organic traffic, am I seeing more of those actions taken? Mm-hmm. And that's because people are going to be searching me out, to your point of how cheap an organic lead and then hire would be. Mm-hmm. And you can see, okay, my branding is having this downstream effect, and I can actually measure it to those metrics like you talked about. Some others that are right there on my website as well.
We've done some other case studies that's pretty sick. We've done a few, but I'll give an example of one.
Sick. He's so hipster.
I mean, I'm wearing a bomber jacket.
So sick.
I got to use the word sick, but we've run some case studies.
Some aviators.
He's a millennial.
Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah.
He's a millennial.
I think we're both millennial. We're all millennials.
Yeah,
I'm right on the cusp.
What a boomer comment.
I know.
Boomers strike again.
You're also the one with the longest TikTok account. Longest held TikTok account.
That's right.
But
anyway, back to your point.
We did a case study, and effectively we tracked, hey, let's run a branded search campaign. So we're tracking how many times do drivers search for a specific company. Mm-hmm. We're going to track it before the video. Then we're going to turn a video on and then track how that is influenced by the video. So
and you're promoting that video to truck drivers, correct?
That's right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure people know. I didn't just make a video, throw it up on YouTube.
Yeah,
I'd put a little bit of budget behind it. Wasn't guaranteed to get leads from it. I want drivers to see this, and then what happened
next?
Back off. What happened next?
I'm not asking for a lead.
Yep.
I'm just saying, check out our company. Here's a driver testimonial. Yep. It's pretty great. We're awesome.
And then what happened?
But don't ask for anything in return.
Yep. But then what happened?
Here's what happens. Once the video starts, it is night and day. When you put it on a graph, you're like, I can't even argue this statistic. Yeah. If search traffic is here, someone searching for my company, I turn the video on. The next month, one client went up by about 82%.
Whoa.
So almost double the amount of traffic. And that actually turned into more leads coming in because they're not shopping. They're closing them more effectively. They increased their hires by like 56% over the next few months. And the only thing that changed was the fact that they ran a YouTube video.
So
that's insane.
They were just pushing a non-lead gen message to drivers.
Yeah.
Saying, I'm going to make a bet that in the future, this is going to turn into leads for me. And it turned out to be high converting leads at a low cost per lead as well.
Spot on.
Yeah. All right. I think we're at the perfect point to transition.
Okay.
Because we've talked about what is branding. We've talked about how much time I think a better way to phrase it may be how much time are our clients afforded to spend on it would be. And then we've talked about why it actually makes sense from a dollar standpoint, cents.
I see what you did there. It's clever.
To spend time on it. And we're kind of transitioning here to, okay, how do I do it? I'm a believer, but what are the best ways to do it? How do I get going? What kind of strategy should I be employing to do a better job at branding?
I think it needs to be some measure of kind of those 3 lead types that you described a moment ago. If I can get a referral element, we've seen those work really well. If I can have a driver talking about how great it is being a driver here, a referral-esque video with the logo sort of in the bottom right corner, something like that, and just tell that story to driver after driver after driver, they're going to go, you know what? That guy, he was right. Or I want what he has, and they're going to seek it out. So I think that's one method to be able to do it pretty easily. Doesn't take a whole lot of resources, and it's pretty easy to find a happy driver. Find someone that's given you 3, 4, 5 referrals recently and put a camera in their face.
Mm-hmm. I think we're taking one thing for granted on the how do we do it, and we keep saying video. Maybe we should have started there. And I think the best way for you to brand as a company is through video. Video is your absolute best way to tell a story. It's the reason why this content that we're talking about could have gone in a white paper, but
Yeah.
we put it in a video.
That's a good
Why?
point.
Because that's how people engage with content.
Well, so I'm going to take it. I'm going to go even more big picture,
Here we
bigger
go.
than your
Okay.
picture.
We're going to the moon now.
So our last guest, who was really smart, by the
Phenomenal.
way, phenomenal guest.
Did he host it by himself? Is he bragging on himself?
Basically.
Okay. Just kidding.
So why? So the question is, why video?
Yeah.
Right. And I think this gets us to the principle here is that when we're influencing perception, we're really influencing emotion. I don't know what I hit there. We're influencing emotion.
That's
Yeah.
a good point.
And it's really hard to influence emotion as effectively through the written word,
Static images.
static images.
And a picture's worth 1,000 words. But
There's a
how many-
reason people.
how many more words
Yeah,
is a video
people
worth?
really emotionally react to video.
Yeah, it's true.
And so it's just nothing is as efficient as video for, just for conveying emotion. And when we're trying to affect perception, we're trying to influence emotion. So
Well said.
So video, so like you said, it really becomes really easy and pragmatic. Video is going to be your best source for doing this.
Mhm.
And a lot of people think, well, shoot, video, I need to do a video, but I don't have this 5-star video team.
I need a studio and an
We
expensive
do.
camera.
Yeah, that's right. But you don't,
Like these guys.
what we found in our data, you don't need this massive crew
No.
with the drones. Yeah, that stuff's cool. And it makes it's a better story to tell,
Right.
right?
Or
But
it's a better way to tell it, but I think the story
fair enough.
can be very organic.
I could have said that
grassroots.
better. Yeah, it's perhaps a better way to tell the story, but the story
Yeah.
is still the same.
That's right.
But what we've seen is even putting something together that's just a low budget video on literally, it's like a PowerPoint slide with pictures that have animation that looks like a video, still plays a positive part in the recruiting experience and gets more people to search for you. So what I don't want to happen is our listeners to think, well, I'm just going to go ahead and exclude myself because we don't got the budget for
I
a
don't,
video.
I don't have
got the people to do
$5,000.
this.
Yeah, I don't have $5,000 to shoot a video.
It's worth it if you do.
Yep.
But don't overthink that.
Well, I mean, you can.
Well, yeah, you all have iPhones.
Yeah, I was going to say the
Yeah.
quality of,
So
of the cell phone.
you
today.
essentially, and I'm going to boil this down and make it real simple. You need a good story and you need an iPhone.
That's
I,
it.
And
I
you can
think
be-
you can
you
start
can be
right
effective.
there. I think you can be. That's all it takes, right
Yeah,
there.
You need a good and I would also add to that. I'm real big on this, and this is kind of teeing us up for R squared because of the theme, which we have not unveiled yet, but will get unveiled soon.
Is that a little
you need
teaser?
You need an authentic story.
Ooh,
Yeah.
You need a good authentic story,
not a
and
salesy
and you
story.
need an iPhone. Well, it's got to be,
Needs to be
and
who you are.
we've brought this up on here is that I've consulted with fleets on their creative in the past, and I go and look at their ads, and then their ads all say something about home time. And then I go and read the reviews, and the reviews are not negative, but they all say, hey, the home time's not great, but you're going to get a great truck, and it's a great place to learn, how to do this. And it's a trucker's fleet, like if you really
Yeah.
like to drive, this is where you want to be. And it's like, so tell that story.
Yeah.
Don't tell the home time story just because every other fleet does.
And that's
Yeah.
an easy place to go and get some
Yeah.
stories. Go look at your positive reviews. What are drivers saying about you? Talk to the drivers that are giving you the most referrals and get your stories from there. Like, you don't come up with the story.
Right.
Go find the story.
But video's not the only way. It's just the best way. So what are some other ways we would recommend?
I mean,
And I'm fine. You guys can, we can be honest.
it is.
You can say, if you want to say, like, really spend all your time on video because that's what's going to be most effective.
I think without a doubt, it's the most effective. I think it is so far and away the method to influence that behavior and get that emotional response you're looking for. Yes, you can have static graphics. You can even have, video-esque banners that follow sort of an audience along. It's still not the same as it, when I get that 5 seconds before I hit skip, or I have the ones that guarantee me 10 seconds, you're getting two different senses to that person's brain, sight and audio,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just hoping that they read it, which I can just sit back if it's static, nothing, but I can at least still have force someone to hear the message. I think video is just far, far, far and away the most powerful way to get that emotional response, to get someone looking for you, to get someone interested more than anything else.
All right. Normally I do the summary here, but Zach, why don't you do the summary of everything we've talked about? Like a real, like,
No pressure.
Yeah.
in 2 minutes, summarize everything we've talked about.
Okay, I'm going to do a summary after this one. I have a big fat claim.
Okay. Big fat claim.
Excuse me.
So Kyle's usually the guy that gives the big fat claim if you know anything about Kyle.
All right.
He's the
King of big fat claims.
king of big fat claims.
Crown.
But one thing that I think is cool for any organization, not just driver recruiting, but really any business across the board, when you're looking to grow and get better at what you do and improve, is ask yourself, this is good practice. So take this. I'm about to say, I'm going to challenge you again. Sorry, I don't mean to challenge you the whole time, but make this a part of your organization and ask yourself this one question. What is one thing that if I did it or changed it or didn't do it, but what is the one thing that if I did it would be the biggest game changer across the board? And let's focus on that thing. Do that by department, by the way.
Yeah.
So recruiting, what does that look like? Ops, safety,
Sales,
C-level suite,
sales.
whatever. Sales across
Service,
the board.
yeah.
For driver recruiting specifically, but even for marketing in general, what I would suggest is the one thing that if we did it well would make the biggest difference in what we're doing today. That would be branding without a doubt. And that's not just because we're having this little talk on it. It's absolutely a massive piece of it. And the data suggests, not only suggests, but without...
Proves it.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't suggest it. It proves it.
Yeah,
That it makes a
without
difference.
a doubt, it absolutely makes a difference and pushes the ball down the field. So that's the big fat claim.
He tried to one up your big fat claim just now
He
with a
did.
bigger, fatter claim.
That's right. Good for you, Kyle.
had to take the crown back.
Yeah, that's right. So we talked about what branding is. It's really, you have a perception of your brand.
Yeah.
Drivers see your company as a brand first. So what is that brand? Now you're trying to influence that perception. So what is it? That's one. What is a brand? The second piece is, how much time are we devoting to it? Short answer is probably not enough. And I think our lives would be way better off and our recruiting time way better spent. And maybe our recruiters would love their jobs a whole lot more because they would have a better time on the phone because they're not selling as much if we did spend more time on branding. So what is it? How much time are we spending on it? The third piece was, I'm not used to going through what we talked about.
All right. So the third big piece was, so we talked about what it is, how much time we're spending on it, and then really, how do we sell internally that it does make sense to spend time on it?
That's
and
right.
you actually articulated probably this best, is you looked at the entire driver journey. There's 20 odd metrics that you could look at within, like, I saw an ad, I clicked, I talked to another driver about this, all these individual metrics. If we brand well, each one of these will see incremental improvement across a long spectrum of time.
That's right.
But we just have to have faith in the process, right?
Yeah.
And then the ending point was, how are we going to do this well? Well, there are more methods than this, but honestly, in this day and age, it's video.
Video's
Yeah.
your shot.
It's video, because we're trying to influence emotion here, and there's no more efficient way or effective way to influence emotion than with video. You just tell a better story.
That's right.
So get the best, most authentic story of yourself that you can and put it on video.
We can go back to what we talked about at the very beginning. The driver recruiting space, or any space, it's a cereal aisle.
Yes.
There's a lot of options out there, and there's a lot of shoppers out there. How do we make it to where when a driver is coming to look for a job, they're not shopping? That is not what you want. You can close them. Maybe they'll see your cereal box and think you have the coolest character or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
But what if before they even got to the aisle, before they even got to the store, before they even got in their car,
They knew where they were going.
they're not writing
Yeah.
cereal on the list. They're writing your brand name,
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
the taste you can see.
And on that point, I
Oh
think
my
we'll end
gosh.
it. That was pretty good. See y'all next time.